the Czech Republic, a landlocked nation in Central Europe, a land of ancient castles, of rolling hills, of vibrant cities steeped in history. For centuries, this small but mighty nation has captivated travelers. Today we join Joe on a journey to uncover the heart of the Czech Republic. From the majestic castles perched atop rolling hills to the echoing cobblestone streets of Prague, the Czech Republic is a tapestry of history. The echoes of empires whisper in its ancient streets, each stone, each building, a silent witness to the passage of time. But beyond the grand historical narrative lies another story, a story of everyday people, living their lives amidst the backdrop of centuries. After weeks on the road, Joe crosses the border. He feels a surge of excitement. A new country, a new adventure awaits. The open road stretches before him, a ribbon of asphalt winding its way through a landscape of dense forests, sparkling rivers, and charming villages. Joe takes a deep breath, feeling the weight of everyday life melt away. He is exactly where he needs to be. Joe, a man in his late 40s, he had always felt the pull of the open road, the allure of adventure. As a boy, he would pore over maps. He dreamed of far-off lands. But life, as it often does, had a different plan. Responsibilities mounted. Then one day, everything changed. Joe experienced a profound loss. It made him question his purpose. He realized that life was too short to waste on regrets. It was time to reclaim those long-forgotten dreams, to finally answer the call of the open road. Joe made a decision. He would embark on a motorcycle journey across Europe. Joe had always loved motorcycles, the feeling of freedom, the wind in his hair. He had purchased his pride and joy, an Indian Scout, several years ago. Now it was time to prepare the bike for a much longer adventure. Joe spent hours in his garage. He meticulously serviced every inch of the machine. He packed only the essentials. As Joe approached Prague, the city seemed to rise from the landscape like a fairy tale. Towers and spires pierced the sky. A sea of red rooftops stretched out before him. He navigated the bustling streets, his senses overwhelmed. The scent of freshly baked pastries mingled with the aroma of roasting meat. Street musicians filled the air with melodies both ancient and modern. Joe found himself swept up in the energy of the city, a place where history and modernity coexisted in perfect harmony. Joe's first stop was the old town square, the heart of Prague. He parked his bike and wandered through the square, his eyes drinking in the sights. The astronomical clock, a marvel of medieval engineering, drew gasps from the crowd as its hourly spectacle unfolded. Joe sat at a street-side cafe, sipping strong Czech coffee. He watched as locals and tourists alike went about their day. He felt a sense of connection to the city. No visit to Prague would be complete without a walk across the Charles Bridge, a stone sentinel connecting the old town with the lesser town. As Joe crossed the bridge, he paused to admire the Baroque statues that lined its length, each one a masterpiece. Street performers entertained the crowds, their music echoing off the ancient stones. Joe stopped to listen to a group of musicians playing traditional Czech folk songs. As evening descended, Joe found himself in a traditional Czech pub. He ordered a pint of Pilsner Urquell, the local brew. The air was thick with the aroma of hops and hearty food. Joe struck up a conversation with a group of locals at the next table. They shared stories, they laughed, they toasted to life, to friendship, to the open road. Joe was struck by the warmth and hospitality of the people. After several days in the bustling metropolis of Prague, Joe yearned for the tranquility of the Czech countryside. Leaving the city behind, Joe felt a sense of liberation as he opened up the throttle on his Indian. The air was fresh and clean, carrying the scent of wildflowers and pine needles. He rode at a leisurely pace, savoring the beauty that unfolded before him. Farmsteads dotted the landscape, their fields a patchwork quilt of greens and golds. Occasionally he would pass through a quaint village, its cobblestone streets lined with colourful houses adorned with flower boxes. Joe's journey led him to Český Krumlov, a fairy tale town nestled in a meander of the Vltava River. Its skyline was dominated by a magnificent castle, its towers and ramparts seemingly untouched by time. He spent hours wandering through the town's narrow cobblestone streets, marveling at the well-preserved Renaissance and Baroque architecture. He stopped for lunch at a charming little cafe tucked away in a quiet corner of the town square. As he savoured a bowl of kulaj dar, a traditional Czech soup, he watched the world go by. Tourists and locals mingled effortlessly, each adding to the vibrant tapestry of life in this enchanting town. Later that afternoon, as Joe was admiring the view from the castle ramparts, he struck up a conversation with an elderly Czech gentleman. Despite the language barrier, they managed to communicate through a combination of gestures, smiles, and the universal language of shared humanity. The man, whose name was Joseph, invited Joe back to his home for dinner. Joe hesitated for a moment, unsure if he should accept the invitation from a complete stranger. But there was something about Joseph's kind eyes and warm smile that put him at ease. The following morning, after a restful night's sleep and a hearty breakfast with Joseph and his family, Joe bid farewell to his newfound friends. He set off towards his next destination, the Bohemian forest. As he rode deeper into the forest, the trees seemed to close in around him, their branches forming a verdant canopy overhead. Sunlight filtered through the leaves, creating a mesmerizing play of light and shadow on the forest floor. The air was cool and damp, carrying the scent of pine needles and damp earth. Joe felt a sense of peace and tranquility wash over him as he rode through this primeval landscape. He stopped at a secluded clearing and switched off his engine, allowing the silence of the forest to envelop him. He took a deep breath, filling his lungs with the crisp, clean air. As Joe ventured further into the Czech Republic, he found himself drawn to the road less traveled. He had always been fascinated by the stories whispered in forgotten corners, the secrets hidden in plain sight. He consulted his map less and less, relying instead on his intuition, his sense of adventure. He followed winding country roads, their asphalt cracked and faded, leading him deeper into the heart of the Czech Republic. He discovered hidden valleys, their slopes carpeted in wildflowers, their silence broken only by the sound of birdsong and the gentle murmur of streams. He encountered ancient churches, their weathered stone walls bearing witness to centuries of faith and history. One such detour led Joe to Karlstein Castle, a 14th century Gothic masterpiece perched atop a steep hill overlooking the Barunka River. As he approached the castle, its imposing towers and ramparts seemed to rise from the forest like a scene from a medieval fairy tale. He parked his bike at the foot of the hill and made his way up the winding path, his heart pounding with anticipation. He had heard tales of the castle's legendary beauty, its rich history, and the treasures it held within its walls. As he stepped through the castle gates, he was transported back in time. He wandered through the castle's courtyards and chambers, his eyes drinking in the intricate details of the Gothic architecture. He felt a tangible connection to the past, as if the stories whispered within these ancient walls were coming alive around him. As the sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows across the castle courtyard, Joe found himself drawn to the castle chapel, a place of hushed reverence and whispered prayers. He stepped inside, the air cool and still, heavy with the scent of incense and old stone. As his eyes adjusted to the dim light, he noticed a faint glow emanating from the altar, a soft, ethereal light that seemed to flicker and dance in the shadows. Curiosity got the better of him, and he slowly approached the altar, his footsteps echoing softly on the stone floor. As he drew closer, he felt a cold shiver run down his spine, a sudden drop in temperature that sent goosebumps prickling across his skin. He could have sworn he heard a whisper, a faint sigh carried on the breeze, but when he turned to look, there was no one there. As darkness enveloped Karlstein Castle, Joe decided to set up camp in a nearby meadow. He had always found solace in the great outdoors, the vastness of the sky, the comforting silence of nature. He pitched his tent under the watchful gaze of the stars, their light twinkling like a million tiny diamonds scattered across a velvet cloth. He built a small fire, its flames casting a warm glow on his face as he cooked a simple meal over the open flame. As he ate, he reflected on his journey so far, the people he had met, the experiences he had embraced. He felt a profound sense of gratitude for the opportunity to explore this beautiful country. As much as Joe cherished the solitude of the open road, it was the connections he made along the way that truly enriched his journey. He had always been a bit of a loner, content in his own company, but something about this journey, this immersion in a foreign land, had opened him up to the possibility of human connection in a way he had never experienced before. He found himself striking up conversations with strangers, sharing meals with locals, exchanging stories and laughter despite the barriers of language and culture. He had shared a beer with a group of bikers at a roadside cafe, their shared passion for motorcycles transcending their differences. With each passing mile, each new encounter, Joe felt a shift within himself. The open road had become more than just a physical journey. It was a journey of self-discovery, a pilgrimage to the heart of his own being. He had faced his fears, pushed his limits, and emerged stronger, more resilient than he ever thought possible. He had learned to embrace the unexpected, to find joy in the simplest of things, to appreciate the beauty that surrounded him in every moment. He had learned that happiness is not a destination, but a way of traveling, a state of being present in the journey, open to the possibilities that each new day brings. He realized that true freedom comes not from escaping our problems, but from confronting them head-on, from finding the courage to live a life true to ourselves, no matter the obstacles we may face. As Joe's journey through the Czech Republic drew to a close, he felt a mix of emotions washing over him. There was a pang of sadness at the thought of leaving this enchanting land behind, but it was overshadowed by a profound sense of gratitude for the experiences he had had, the lessons he had learned, the connections he had made. He had set out on this journey hoping to find himself, and in a way he had, but he had also discovered something far greater, the boundless capacity of the human spirit to connect, to grow, to find meaning and purpose in the most unexpected of places. He realized that the journey doesn't truly end when we reach our destination, but continues within us, shaping our perspectives, enriching our lives long after we've returned home. Joe knew that he would never be the same man who had set out on this journey all those weeks ago. He had been changed, transformed by the open road, the kindness of strangers, the beauty of the Czech Republic. He had found a sense of purpose, a renewed zest for life that he would carry with him always. The open road still beckoned, promising countless more adventures, but for now, Joe was content to savor the memories of his journey through the heart of the Czech Republic. He knew that the lessons he had learned, the connections he had made, would stay with him long after the dust had settled on this adventure. He embraced the unknown, knowing that life itself is a journey, and the greatest adventure is the one we choose to live each day. As Joe stood on the border, the Czech Republic shrinking in his rearview mirror, he felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. The open road had led him on an incredible journey, one that tested his limits and expanded his horizons. He had come seeking adventure, a break from the monotony of life. What he found was profound, a connection to history, culture, and himself. Joe knew he couldn't return to his old life unchanged by the past weeks. The open road revealed what truly matters in life. He rediscovered simple pleasures, the sun, a hearty meal, and new friends. Riding towards the sunset, Joe carried the echoes of adventure. The open road would always call, beckoning him to explore. For now, he carried the spirit of the Czech Republic within him. Joe's journey had ended, but his transformation was just beginning. He found a renewed sense of purpose guiding him in future adventures. The open road would always be there, leading to new discoveries and friendships.